Okay, so today's vlog has three purposes to it. The number one purpose is we're going to look at Exodus chapters 13 through 15. The second purpose is we're going to make some wings. And the third purpose is I have to apologize to someone. Okay, like I said, we're going to make some wings. We have two particular flavors that we're going to make. And hold on. Okay, so I bought this Schultz cooking hot sauce. It's like a sweet heat, so we're going to give this a try as one of the flavors. And also I got these bags of Parmesan cheese. We're going to make some Parmesan garlic flavored wings. But before I move on, the apology part. So on day 33, I had actually already filmed a vlog with Joseph Grams. And he joined me in the vlog talking about Exodus 13 through 15. But for some reason today, in the process of cleaning out my computer and getting rid of unnecessary videos, I happened to erase that very video. Joseph, I am very sorry. I apologize, man. Next time you come back from college, you will be featured in the vlog, but I just feel awful. So that's the apology there. Hopefully there's no hard feelings. If there are, I'm sorry. All right, let's make some wings. So in Exodus chapter 13, this is right after the 10th and final plague, being that the death of the firstborn, and God commands his people to consecrate the firstborn and then institutes the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which goes in conjunction with the Passover and becomes a very significant and important feast festival in the Jewish culture. Then the chapter wraps up with the introduction of God leading his people out into the wilderness and leading them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Then chapter 14 is the infamous chapter that is probably one of the most famous chapters when it comes to kids and kids stories from the Bible, the parting of the Red Sea. I find it so interesting that this chapter opens up, and I never noticed this before, with God telling Moses directly what was going to happen, and how Pharaoh's going to come after them. And then you have the whole Red Sea parting, and just, as common as this story is in our Christian culture, it's really quite amazing what happens. When the people cross to the other side of the Red Sea, then the Lord causes the waters to fall back upon the Egyptians, thus wiping them out. Then in chapter 15 is really Moses' response as well as the people's response to God delivering them from the Egyptians through the Red Sea crossing. And it's just this song about God's power, his glory and majesty, and they're just praising the Lord. Then the chapter wraps up with the story of the bitter water turning to sweet by Moses chucking the stick or log into the bitter water, and the people are able to drink the sweet water in the wilderness. When I was reading these chapters, I think what stuck out to me the most was really in chapter 13 about the institution of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. In John chapter 2, Jesus is in Jerusalem. It's during the Feast of Passover. And what happens is he goes into the temple and he finds all these people selling these sacrifices and essentially making a profit based off of God's commands of his people wanting to sacrifice and offer to him. And Jesus, gets upset, right? He makes this whip and starts rebuking all the money changers and all that. And in a sense, he's getting rid of all the sin that was in the house of God. And the whole idea with the Feast of Unleavened Bread was that for a certain time period they were to get rid of all the leaven that was in their house, and because leaven in a way signified sin. And so you really see how that kind of beautifully correlates with Jesus himself. and that Jesus is the only one that can truly get rid of our sin for us. We can't do it on our own. So the first thing that we're going to do when we make wings is we have to cut the chicken wings. Now that we've got the wings all cut, we are now going to season the wings. But before we do that, we want to set the oven temperature to a balmy 352 degrees. My wife is using the oven currently. I'm going to use this special chicken seasoning, and what we're going to do is we're going to add about a cup of flour to this, as well as about 2 tablespoons of baking powder.
No draws.
We're going to mix all this together, and we're simply going to coat each wing in this mix that we have. You're then going to get the baking sheet that you're going to put the wings on. I suggest if you do not have a non-stick baking sheet, that you get some oil or butter that you can rub on it so the wings don't stick to the baking sheet. Ideally, it would be great to have a baking rack, but I do not have one. So if you have a baking rack, use it. It's important to note that once the timer goes off, you're going to flip the wings and then cook them for another 27 minutes, and they should be done after that. So while the wings are going to be cooking, we're going to make the sauces that we're going to be dipping the wings in, or coating them in. These are probably 2 of my favorite sauces when it comes to wings, because you have the spicy, the kick with the buffalo sauce, but then the Parmesan garlic is kind of like cools it. It's a good balance. That's what it's all about when it comes to cooking, is balance. They're done. Check these out. And that's how you make these version of wings.